name is Connor, and I'm going to be doing a review on the Nikon 18 to 200mm lens. Now, first of all, the thing you're going to notice is how large it is. This is the 18 to 55, and this is the 55 to 200mm Nikon lens, and it's a lot thicker and a lot taller than both of them. And all the way out, you can really see a huge difference since it doubles in length almost here. And this is this one fully out. Now, in terms of weight, this weighs twice as much as this one and a lot more than twice as much as that one. And a real difference comes in terms of thickness, as I told you. These are 52mm filtered, and this one is has a 72mm filter, so it is a lot wider around. Now, we're going to go into build quality a little bit, and as you can see, it's still plastic just like these, but it's a lot better built. It's better put together, a lot smoother action in the focusing ring. Not as clunky as these ones, or as hard to focus as these are. And it has a manual focusing ring here, and this is the focus, and this is the zoom ring. It's a good industrial plastic. It's a little better than this type of plastic. And on the back it has metal, like this. Whereas these two lenses do not have metal, they have plastic on the back. Now, a really cool build feature on this that's seen on most professional lenses that I like is this rubber gasket around the edge, which goes around the edge of the F-ring on here, and it actually keeps dust and moisture out. So if you work in humid areas, it's really helpful. Now, in weight terms, like I said, this weighs about twice as much as these two, and it weighs 1.2 to 1.3 pounds actually. So that's quite a difference in weight. And its cost too, let's go over that. These cost about $120 each. This one costs $700 to $750 now. But the reason it costs like that is because of a lot of its features. It has what's called IF, and what that means is it focuses from the inside, unlike these, which focus like this. They have to turn in and out to focus. So it focuses straight from the inside, and that inside element in there actually focuses and moves around from the inside. And it also, speaking of the focus, it has what's called manual override, which means that it can be on autofocus, and you can manually override it. So you can use the manual and autofocus at the same time, unlike these, which you cannot manually focus when it's on automatic. You have to switch it to manual and then focus it if you want to do that manually. It has the AFS system, so do these, but this is a lot faster and a lot more precise than these two, especially this one. It's a lot faster than that, and it's a lot quieter than both as well. In terms of speed, if you compare it to a professional quality lens, it's the same speed as a professional quality outside in broad daylight. When it gets darker, it gets a lot slower than a professional lens, so that's a little comparison there. This has VR, but instead of just normal VR, it's the only lens with Nikon's new VR2. Instead of just 2 to 3 stops slower, this thing can take up to 3 to 4 stops slower. So for instance, a normal VR lens, you could take a picture 1/25th of a second at 200mm. This one you could probably do it at 1/15th or 1/13th of a second at 200mm. So VR is a lot better on this lens. And it has these two modes here called normal and active. Normal is meant for just handheld shooting. Active is when you're in a bumpy car and you want to use it then. And also a little bit more on the build. This has metal inside compared to these, which just have plastics on the inside. So the holding it together is metal on the inside, which is good. Now this thing is, people sometimes wonder if the drop is any good on this. If you drop it on the ground, it works really well. Most people only crack the front thing here, or they break the filter completely, but the inside glass has always been perfectly preserved, so that's an example of how well built this lens is. Let's go to performance, and this will be the last subject. And we're going to go with distortion. And at 18, the distortion is pretty bad with this lens. It's very noticeable by anyone. It's a lot worse than this at 18, and it's especially noticeable in the corners. And it's kind of complex. So if you have Photoshop, you won't be able to completely, get rid of it. Although in Photoshop, it does a good enough job that you don't notice the distortion anymore. even if there is a little more distortion left over. By 24 though, which is just a little ways away, it is completely neutral. There's no more distortion. From the 24 to 35, there's no distortion. From 35 to 70, there's heavy pincushion, which means it all sucks into the middle kind of. And from 135 to 200, there's barely any pincushion, so that's good. At around 200, there's not much distortion at all. Now, chromal aberration, it's the most chromal aberration, of course, is at 18, and even then it's not very noticeable at all. This is one of the best performers in terms of chromal aberration. And from 24 all the way to 135, there's no to very little chromal aberration at all. No need for correction there. And at 200, there's a little more chromal aberration, but there's still no need for correction. It's barely noticeable. Now, this is what is so amazing about this lens is how sharp it is at every focal length. Every focal length that you go to in every aperture, this is very, very sharp lens. It's been tested against the 17 to 35 and almost performs just as well at low apertures and all that. And it's much sharper than these two at low apertures. I've done that many times. It's much, much sharper. Now, in the end, it all depends on how much you're willing to pay and how much you're willing to carry around with you. This is very compact. It's got everything you need. You don't need to switch lenses with this like you would with these two. It could be the only lens you ever need. And if you're a professional, it could be a great backup lens. And you can use this on like vacations or something if you want to travel lightly instead of with all the professional gear. So this has been a review of the Nikon 18 to 200mm lens.